Right. So why people even talk like he the best at? He didn't even fight at 135 yet.
Right.
He didn't even have power at 126, 30 or none of that.
He is good.
Okay. How can you? All that's just okay.
Think when's that fight between him and Teofimo Lopez if they fight?
If they fight, I think Shakur win. I think Shakur wins.
This reason, Teofimo Lopez, we've seen him at his best, but he typically brings out his best characteristics when he's back against the wall and he's counted out. And he's going to be counted out in this fight. By and large, people are going to side with Shakur in this fight to win the fight because he's the more consistent fighter. He's the more class fighter.
So here's the deal with the boxing world buzzing about Shakur Stevenson going up against Teofimo Lopez. The reactions from pros have been all over the map. Tank Davis didn't hold back his thoughts on Stevenson, basically calling out the hype machine. Davis was pretty blunt about it, saying people are crowning Stevenson before he's actually earned it against the absolute best. According to Tank, having a big reputation doesn't mean squat when you step into those elite-level scraps. Real credibility only comes after you've been through the fire with top-tier opposition and proven you can handle the heat.
Some of your 135 contemporaries have a lot to say these days. Shakur Stevenson, well, of course, he's now 135 after all that stuff, and then Devin Haney.
Right. So why people even talk like he the best at? He didn't even fight at 135 yet.
Right.
He didn't even have power at 126, 30 or none of that.
He is good.
Okay. How can you? All that's just okay. How can you stop people that can actually hit? No matter all that boxing, you going to get hit.
So when you take a shot, what's your instinct? That's the question Paulie Malignaggi and Chris Algieri dive into when they're breaking this whole thing down. Paulie's got some interesting takes on how this fight gets viewed by the public. He's pointing out something most people miss about Lopez getting the short end of the stick in terms of perception. While Stevenson's got all the social media buzz, the bigger following, and way more spotlight, Lopez is sitting there being overlooked. The casual fans are automatically leaning towards Stevenson, thinking he's got this locked up. But Paulie's saying that's exactly where things get interesting. When those lights come on and the bell rings, all that outside noise disappears. This could be Lopez's perfect storm moment. Paulie thinks Lopez is going to use this as his launching pad, his chance to show the world what he's really made of. He believes Lopez will come out swinging for the fences, ready to prove he belongs in conversations with anyone at this weight class.
With this situation, because Teofimo is at his most dangerous when he's counted out. And this is going to be one of those fights where he's going to be counted out. Because Shakur is looked at by and large as the guy who can dominate boxing in this generation, right? It's just a matter of him getting the opportunity. I myself have felt that he's the guy who could and should be dominating boxing if he gets the right matchups. But bro, this is one of the rare matchups, if not maybe the only matchup, where I feel like is a big threat here to Shakur. And then they would all come undone only because of this reason. Teofimo Lopez, we've seen him at his best, but he typically brings out his best characteristics when he's back against the wall and he's counted out. And he's going to be counted out in this fight. By and large, people are going to side with Shakur in this fight to win the fight because he's the more consistent fighter. He's the more class fighter overall. And he's just so damn good. But Teofimo has a way, when you're so damn good and he knows you're so damn good and everybody feels like you're going to beat him, there's just something about Teofimo, man. He brings out a different level and somehow supersedes that guy who is that damn good. I've seen it. We've seen it already. I'm not saying anything that anybody else hasn't already seen, okay? I'm just stipulating it. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know who wins this fight. Because again, your better head says Shakur, but then you think about, man, Teofimo. Again,
he's got the X factor.
What I just explained.
He's got the talent to
I'm telling you right now.
Yeah.
Shakur is extremely talented and could be the face of boxing as far as being that good and being that dominant, even though no matter how good you are. But this is one of the rare fights where you can get beat. And I don't ever want to hear any of you tank nut huggers that he fights one Uber driver after another. If Shakur Stevenson loses this fight, I don't ever want to hear any of you saying, oh, well, what about Shakur now? Tank this, tank that. Tank fights the guy that delivers my pizza. He fights the guys in the back that are doing the production. He fights the truck driver. I don't want to hear because he would never have gone near Teofimo Lopez.
Lamont Roach has a completely different read on how this plays out. He's backing Stevenson's ability to control every aspect of what happens in there. Roach doesn't see this turning into some back-and-forth slugfest. Instead, he thinks Stevenson's going to set the tone right from the jump, making Lopez fight at a pace that just doesn't suit him. The way Roach sees it, Stevenson's got this gift for reading what his opponents want to do and just shutting it down before it even gets started. He thinks Stevenson's going to use his range and timing to completely frustrate Lopez, taking away all that explosive power that makes him dangerous. In Roach's mind, this doesn't become a war at all. It becomes a masterclass in how pure boxing skill can completely neutralize someone who relies on aggression. He's basically saying Stevenson's technical abilities are so advanced that Lopez never really gets into any kind of rhythm or finds the openings he needs to be effective.
But and doing that, and so I was always going to fight this year. He knew that too. I was always going to fight this year. It was going to be either like a tune-up or something before I fought him, if we were to get that together.
So who do you think wins that fight between him and Teofimo Lopez if they fight?
If they fight, I think Shakur wins. I think Shakur wins. And I don't think it's going to be like a super tough fight either. I think he just, his IQ will frustrate him. And
wow. Don't you think Teo has also good ring IQ and also is slick, fast?
I think
explosive?
so. But when you look at Teo's performances against guys that are just pure boxers, it's just like he almost lost to Sandor Martin. Some people thought he lost to Sandor Martin. Who else?
He did beat Loma, who's arguably at the time considered one of the best in the world.
He did, and that was a hell of a performance too. A hell of a performance too. So yeah, I mean, I think he's hit or miss. You got to think he got stuff. He a little cuckoo too. Like he has like a little mental lapses every once in a while. Look at the Kambosos fight. Like that's a fight that people would never expect Kambosos to win. And he won a grueling match against him as well. So I just, I don't know. I don't think he can get it done against Shakur when it comes to like, cause it's going to be just a skill match. I don't think he's going to try to rough Shakur up, and it's probably not going to work.
Roy Jones Jr. brings up something crucial about what Lopez absolutely has to bring to the table. Jones is all about the mental side of preparation and execution here. He's warning that Lopez can't afford even small mistakes against someone as sharp as Stevenson. Jones breaks down how Stevenson is like a predator waiting for the right moment. The second opponents lose focus or their technique breaks down, Stevenson pounces with perfect counters and positional dominance. Jones isn't saying Lopez doesn't have the skills to compete, but he's stressing that skills alone won't cut it. Every single round is going to matter because Stevenson builds his leads slowly and methodically. Once Stevenson gets ahead, Jones thinks it becomes nearly impossible to catch up because he's so good at maintaining control once he has it.
Stylistically, man, how does Shakur beat Teo and vice versa? Stylistically, how does Teo beat Shakur?
Stylistically, Teo got to go in and go for broke. He got to go gamble. He got to take some, get some, and that's just the only way to win. If he stays outside and boxes, Shakur gonna pick him apart. Shakur's a polished boxer with some of the best feet in the game right now, and he's a defensive-minded fighter, which is very smart. It's hard to hit him. He makes you gamble to hit him, and he's going to be a tough one to deal with. But if Teofimo is willing to gamble to beat him, then Teofimo can definitely make it a really good fight.
Rolly Romero comes at this from a totally different angle, calling it an absolute pick'em fight. His reasoning is pretty solid when you think about it. Both these guys have already captured world titles and proven they can handle elite-level competition. Romero's not seeing either fighter as having a clear advantage going in. What he's focusing on is how their contrasting approaches could create fireworks. He thinks this comes down to who can establish their game plan first and stick with it. Romero's painting this as the kind of fight where small adjustments and split-second decisions end up being the difference makers. By putting both fighters on equal footing skill-wise, he's suggesting that mental toughness and adaptability during the actual fight become way more important than anything we can predict beforehand.
I think it's a great fight. You'll really see, because I mean, at the end of it, they're both Olympians. They're both multi-division world champions. Teo is an incredible fighter, and Shakur is an incredible fighter. Shakur has a really high boxing IQ and a very Shakur coming out with I'm telling you, it's gonna be a good fight. I like to see it.
Gary Antoine Russell zeroes in on a specific version of Lopez that he thinks could cause real problems. He keeps going back to what Lopez did against Lomachenko as the perfect example of what happens when everything clicks. Russell explains that when Lopez commits to coming forward while staying disciplined, he becomes a nightmare matchup for anybody. That version of Lopez owns the middle of the ring, dictates when exchanges happen, and never lets his opponent get comfortable or reset. Russell believes if Lopez can tap into that same mental state and confidence level, he's got the tools to mess up Stevenson's timing and prevent him from getting into that defensive shell. He's not dismissing what Stevenson brings to the table, but he's saying Lopez has already shown he can rise up and meet elite challenges when his head's in the right space.
Typically, how does it play out in the ring?
It's 50-50. You know, in order for you to participate in this sport, you gotta have a high level of confidence. I feel like both of them has a high level of confidence, Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson, but styles make fights. Naturally, I think Teofimo Lopez is stronger than Shakur. Naturally, I think he has more athleticism than Shakur, and he got a good IQ on the sport itself. But Shakur, I feel like he's a more smarter fighter. He's a more technical fighter. You know, I'm not saying that he's a square or he's just a textbook fighter, but he's seasoned, he's poised. I feel like mentally he's more mature. Like, he don't go outside of the boundaries on taking risks. So a lot of times you'll see him fight somebody that could be stiff competition, and it'll wind up being a born fight to a degree. You know, that's why everybody was criticizing him for, oh, he's a born fighter. He's a careful fighter. And I feel like with Teofimo Lopez, he's going to be a careful fighter. You know, just because he's a careful fighter doesn't mean that he isn't punctual with how he do things. I think Shakur, he got a lot in his arsenal that he can use to make him be victorious, as well as Teofimo Lopez. You know what I mean? So it's a 50-50 fight, and it depends on what fighters show up the night of the fight. Right. You know, but if I had to give you my whole honest truth, if Teofimo Lopez show up.
Now this is where some people break it down to the basics and focus on what each fighter does best physically. Several experts point out that Lopez has that edge in pure power, which could be huge during exchanges or when they're working on the inside. Stevenson gets the nod for pure speed, especially with his footwork and hand speed. What makes this interesting is how these advantages could cancel each other out. Power can slow down movement, but speed can make power irrelevant if you're not there to get hit. This creates a situation where the fight becomes more about strategy and timing rather than just a straight-up brawl. Whoever figures out how to use their physical gifts more effectively is probably going to control how fast or slow this fight moves.
Great defensive fighter, very good offensive fighter. The difference between the two, for me, I think that Teofimo might be a little bit stronger of the two. But, you know, speed can sometimes nullify power.
Right. It depends on if you can use your speed to get you from round to round, as opposed to avoiding that.
Teddy Atlas pushes back hard against all the criticism both these fighters have taken over their careers. He's tired of people saying they've been ducking tough fights because that narrative just doesn't hold up anymore. Atlas gives both guys credit for stepping into a matchup that a lot of people didn't think would actually happen. While he admits this might not turn into the most explosive or crowd-pleasing fight, he argues that entertainment comes in different forms. What this fight guarantees is elite-level boxing skills and ring intelligence on full display. Atlas specifically praises how Stevenson has evolved, mixing aggression with his natural defensive abilities, controlling distance, being effective in close, and capitalizing on mistakes whether they happen at range or up close. For Atlas, this represents pure boxing artistry rather than just putting on a show.
No, Teofimo, certain style, he's avoiding this guy, he's avoiding that guy. You can't take those shots at these two guys. Definitely can't now. They are stepping up, and they are taking fights that a lot of people are probably surprised they took. Now, a lot of people will say style-wise, Teddy, style-wise, is this going to be a great fight? I don't know if it will. I mean, style-wise, I could see you having a little reservations, whether or not these guys will make for dynamite, they will make, for electricity. I don't know if they will, but I tell you what they will make for. Two skillful fighters, two talented fighters, two fighters that are at a high skill level that will compete in the sweet science. I mean, Shakur showed aggression in his last fight against Zepeda, being elusive while being aggressive, walking them down, fighting on the inside, boxing well, still being able to counter, still being able to control space, but also be able to go into tight quarters and not be afraid to show that he's good on the inside too, that he can make you miss and make you pay outside and inside. Shakur showed that. That was great. That was great, and people applaud him. I applaud him. We were sitting there, ringside. I was sitting there actually with your sister, ringside, watching that fight. And it was a terrific performance. Shakur showing that dimension, showing that attitude, showing that competitiveness, showing that dog like people like to show or like to talk about, and they wanted to see in Shakur.
Timothy Bradley brings up a warning about sleeping on Lopez in this matchup. He's making it clear that this is far from a gimme fight for Stevenson, no matter how technically sound he might be. Bradley talks about Lopez having this wild card factor and supreme confidence that can throw off even the most prepared fighters. He describes Lopez as someone who fights on instinct, making split-second decisions that can completely change the direction of a fight. Bradley thinks this unpredictability is what makes Lopez genuinely dangerous, because he doesn't just follow a script or rely on his corner's instructions. This means Stevenson has to stay alert and be ready to adjust constantly. Bradley's basically saying Stevenson can't just rely on his fundamentals, he's got to be prepared for Lopez to do things that don't make conventional sense.
Easy damn fight for Shakur Stevenson. Nope, it ain't gonna be an easy fight. Nope. After studying freaking Lopez yesterday, man, look, that athleticism that he got, that speed that he got, the boy is a what's the name I'm looking for? What can I say? He's autonomous. That's the word I'm looking for. He's an autonomous fighter. Okay? What does that mean, autonomous fighter, Tim? Shakur is too. Just like Floyd is. Just like Crawford is. Just like Inoue is. Young fighters want to get to that point in their career where they become autonomous fighters, okay? Where you don't need no damn instructions. You don't need no guidance. You know how to figure it out. Your fundamentals are so damn sound that, you got skills now built on top of those fundamentals. Now it's second nature for you. You know what I'm saying? You didn't see the same patterns and rhythms and styles and so on and so forth that it's second nature. It's nothing for you. These guys can operate without any damn instructions, without being told what to do. That's how great these dudes are. Or I should say good they are. They still got to prove they great, right? But, look, the thing that surprised me about T.O. last night after watching him, man, is that his speed and quickness and how fast he's able to strike. Look, I'm going to tell you where he's going. Because I watched a little bit of Shakur last night. He going to Shakur's body.
The analyst Henry sees this as exactly the type of fight that brings out Lopez's absolute best. He argues that Lopez actually needs elite opposition to reach his peak performance, like his ceiling gets higher based on the quality of opponent in front of him. While Lopez has tasted defeat before, Henry doesn't think those losses show us his true limits. This particular matchup might be what unlocks the best version of Lopez we've ever seen. When it comes to Stevenson, Henry points to that perfect record and rock-solid consistency, emphasizing that both fighters are the exact same age and right in their physical primes. Their measurements are almost identical, which just adds another layer of uncertainty and excitement. Henry views this as a genuinely risky fight for both men, because it's going to test everything they have in terms of skill, ability to adjust, and mental strength at the absolute highest level of the sport.
Teofimo Lopez needs opponents like Shakur Stevenson because they are elite fighters. He needs that to bring out the very best in him. I just can't see how it's possible that whilst Teofimo, we've seen a ceiling with him in terms of he's been beaten by certain opponents, we know that he can lose in the ring. But I don't know if that's a genuine ceiling, because I think that his ceiling is actually one of the most changeable in boxing based on who's in front of him. And so actually, I think there's a very, very good chance we're going to see the best possible version of Teofimo Lopez in the ring against Shakur Stevenson. But we should talk about Shakur Stevenson before we get into the nuts and bolts of the fight, what it might look like, and why it is so risky for both men. Now, Shakur Stevenson is currently undefeated. He's 24-0 with 11 KOs. He turned pro back in 2017. He's the same age as Teofimo Lopez at 28 years old, both men in their athletic primes. He's 5'8". These are on paper heights, so potentially a little bit shorter. He could even be a bit taller than Teofimo Lopez. I really need to see them next to each other to make that assessment. No lifts in the shoes, all that stuff. But around the same size is the most important thing. The difference, though, with Shakur Stevenson is he's actually a 3-weight division world champion, and he started a division lower than Teofimo Lopez, meaning naturally it would appear that he's slightly the smaller man. Although that doesn't necessarily mean they're now not the same size. He could easily have filled out to be roughly the same size as Teofimo Lopez is on the night in the ring. Now, for me, I'm going to jump back to 2021 to first start talking about Shakur Stevenson, when he managed to get a win over Jamel Herring. Again, he'd had significant wins before this fight, but it was the first one where I really tuned into his career. Notable wins had already come against Joet Gonzalez, Jeremiah Nakathila, but no one that was really a household name. Maybe Joet Gonzalez. No giant names. Jamel Herring was the first one where I was like, I know who Jamel Herring is. He beat Carl Frampton. He beat Lamont Roach. This is a very, very decent operator. And what can I say? I mean, Shakur Stevenson just absolutely dominated him and TKO'd him in the 10th round of their fight. But this was a really, really landmark, standout performance from Shakur Stevenson. The talent was there for all to see. Everybody could tell this was a serious professional fighter.
That's it for today's video. Stay tuned until next time.